Good morning, everybody. This is Mikael from Healthwise Enterprise, the health food store that's located at 3807 East 8 Mile Road between Ryan and DeQuinda, about 3 blocks west of Ryan. But some people say we're between Taco Bell and Long John Silver. Technically between Ryan and DeQuinda, but there's a big parking lot between us and Long John Silver, and they graciously said we can use their lot because ours is small. We there Monday through Saturday from 10 to 7 p.m. And you can always give us a call directly at the store at 586-757-DIET. Again, that's 586-757-3438. Our original number still works, 366-DIET. Okay, or 313-366-3438. And if you want to set up a one-on-one with me, you can call me on the cell phone, 313-600-8532. Just not on Sunday. I follow God, and He worked 6 days and took Sunday off, or one of them days off. And we do the same thing, is that work, give it all we got for those 6 days, and then come the seventh day, we are recuperating. But I really don't get a chance to recuperate because that's 7th day after wife day, so you just put me to work and get into the honey-do list and all that good stuff. Um, I really don't get into politics, and I like what they said in the final call. It said the bigger picture is black survival is bigger than black voting, which I can resonate with that. But I'm at the mindset as doing both. Okay, having black voting and black survival, and focusing on what we can do as individuals, because the big six, they spend a lot of time and money brainwashing people so they can control them. Okay, and we had the ultimate control ourselves. Spending time with God through meditation, you reinforce your powers, and one of the powers we have is to going against their program, going against their system, going against their brainwashing, going against their means of control. And the more healthier we become, we are not falling into that drug system that got set up. Okay, the more healthy we become, we're not falling into stress dealing with who won this election, because a lot of folks that I talked to didn't like either one of them. Okay, and the process that they went through to choose them, well, we know they are both being controlled. And Malcolm X said it best. You decide whether you're gonna get ate up by a wolf or ate up by a fox. You're still gonna get ate up. Okay, and the fact that this guy was just so bluntly just racial about a lot of his comments that I've heard. Seemed like it's opened up the door for other folks to do the same thing. I always say what we put out there, what we think about, we bring about. Okay, in our personal lives, if we think positive thoughts, we get positive results. If we choose to hang around positive people, it reinforces our positive results. If we spend time reinforcing our God given powers, we get those results, because everything around us was first created in somebody's mind, and they believed it, and then how we like hold it in our hands, cell phones, or being at a studio and being in your homes. 100 years ago, that was totally impossible, unheard of, and now we can do that. And so we the power of the belief is extremely powerful, and we can do those things. And so no matter what they do, we just keep on keeping on. I mean, we just got a history of keep on keeping on. Um, and that's one thing I like about black folks. One thing I like about being black is just we just had that tenacity to matter what they throw at us, we will just keep on. I mean, I saw Nat Turner, one of my longtime heroes. I read his book, and they did a good job of portraying it. But one of the key factors is that he constantly read. Even though he was reading the Bible, but he read what they wanted him to say to all the slaves, and he also read what God was saying in the Bible about rising up, and that one man made a difference. So one person has in the history made plenty of differences, and so us being that one person going against the okie doke is our power. I mean, just the fact of buying organic food, or going to a farmer that grows organic produce and supporting him, that puts a snag in so many different avenues that these guys got set up. I mean, because you get organic food, so we know food heals. I mean, that's one reason I like to stabilize greens so much, because it's a simple way of getting about 25, 26 different sources of organic foods. As a matter of fact, they don't even say it's organic because it's way beyond organic, because it has a high dosage of the vitamins and the minerals and the trace minerals, the fatty acids, the precursors, the nutrients that our bodies strive off of. Organic foods have more nourishments in it because when it's in the ground, it doesn't have the pesticides and herbicides to kill the weeds. So that makes it stronger because it has to fight the weeds to get the nourishment that's in the soil, and it makes it even stronger. And like Dick Gregory said, an apple, an organic apple has 8 times more nourishment than the regular apple. And that's what we need. We need foods that's grown on mineral-rich soils. The organic foods means it didn't use pesticides and herbicides. Whether they nourish the soil or not, is I don't know. That's something that maybe I go to Eastern Market this weekend and find out. Do they nourish the soil? But in the past, that just means that they didn't use pesticides and herbicides. But in the way past, 100 years ago, we always used cow manure and other natural ways to nourish the soil. God is the biggest recycler that I know. I mean, we've been here for, millions of years, the same water, same planet, and now for the past 100 years, these big six want to just make more and more money, control more and more people, and they do it at the expense of our home, planet Earth. And so it's time for them to come down, um, and for us, the people on the planet, to use this planet for our good, not just a few one percenters. Um, but let me get into what Dr. McCullough is talking about. Don't panic about politics. Realize where your true power lies instead. In a national poll, 43% of Americans reported emotional stress related to Trump's campaign. 28% was stressed out about Clinton, and 93% said this year's elections are more stressful than any other. Dealing with stress, one of the things, nutritionally speaking, is B complex. Taking B complex now gives your body, because when you deal with stress, you use up a lot of your B vitamins that's in your body. And taking B12 or B6, one or two, is about 15, 20 different Bs. And taking the B complex, now you got all of them. Taking it with some food makes the absorption rate real high. But B's doesn't stay in your body. Your body going to use what it needs and discard the rest. so your urine comes out yellow. But you end up being a lot cooler, calmer, collective, centered, and so important. Foods that's rich in the B complex would be your grains. Your brown rice, your basmati rice. Your millet. Okay, those grains is rich in B complex. Uh, we at Healthwise we have B complex pills and I think we have some liquids too that really does make a difference. So when stressful situations come up, your body got the nourishment to balance it out. The U.S. is more accurately described as a corporate um, oligarchy, okay, as the main power lies with the big six, i.e., the banking industry, the pharmaceutical, which is the drug industry, the horticulturalists, the military industrial complex, energy, DET, and media. You know, that's the big six. And they control the politicians. No matter who would have won, those big six control them. So they're going to do what they tell them to do, you know. And regardless of who wins the presidency today, because this was put out Tuesday, please realize that your power as an individual lies in your day to day decisions. It's time to step out of the globalist and federalist system, and it all starts with your food. It's the, it's the basics. It's the food. We say the food and the water. So that's one, because I had thought about zeroing in on survival techniques, and have me a survival kit to show you. But it's always good to have some flashlights or some of them lights that you know that ha- you know that it's not a flashlight, but it's a light that a lantern. There you go. They have electrical lanterns and a radio that you can wind up to get the power, so you can be in touch with what's going on. Um, a friend of mine told me to see if I can have it on. Is getting a can of Grisco and a rag, and you tighten it up real tight and put it in the middle of that Grisco and then light it, because that rag will be a wick. And that Grisco can will give you light for 30 hours. It's um, using that ultra uh, men boost help cleans up water and help pull poisons out of your system. It's just a way of taking. I had to find out way of doing it, but they say they did it with Mexico water. Is that they used the Aquaman boost to clean up the Mexico water before they even went to the treatment plant. I don't know if they put 1 teaspoon in a gallon or 2 teaspoons or a whole ounce, but they say they was able to neutralize the harmful effects of the toxins that was in the water. How much water we need to survive? We know we need to stay healthy is replace about 5% of all the water in our bodies. But till we get into survival mode, how much do we need every day? It's a question I thought about but don't have an answer, but I can look it up. Um, Having clothes like, long johns to help keep your body, warm. Cayenne pepper, you can put in your extremities, like in your socks and your gloves, and you take it internally. It's just something to keep you warm. This is a mix of survival techniques and dealing with this presidential election. It is not the faint of heart. In fact, over the past several months, mental health professionals have noted a significant uptick in anxiety and emotional stress related directly to today's elections. I mean, Barack Obama did what he could as one man, him and Michelle Obama, um, to show us that God created us, and this less than 1% of our body being our skin color they use the powers to be, the big six is using that to divide and conquer. And we did all this work to see the commonality that we have, and being this is that we have one planet to live on, and then he come around with the guy that acting like he did is to further divide the people. Well, the big six, the more we divide it, the more they can control people. So they're gonna put a guy like Trump in office so that he can further divide the country so that they can control people more. There you go. We know it's a game. In a national poll by University of Minnesota psychiatrists, 43% of the respondents reported emotional stress related to Trump's campaign. 28% was stressed out about Clinton, and 93% said this year's elections are more stressful than any previous election. It's a game, folks. The American Psychological Association also reported that 52% of Americans adults found the 2016 election to be a significant source of stress, as reported by U.S. News in early October. I mean, the CNN, we call it the constant negative news. I've been working as a psychologist since 2005, and this is the first time I've seen a lot of anxiety about presidential elections. What they ain't meant about 2 or 3 of them. But anyway, says Diana Lipsky, who works with individuals and couples in Arlington, just outside the District of Columbia. If I seen 22 clients a week, about 15 of them will say something about the election. Electoral conflict between spouse and partners have become so heated that Dr. Lipsky has counseled some couples, to not discuss politics with each other unless it's a couples therapy. This disagreement become petty destructive, pretty destructive, I should say. Lipsky says, emotionals get triggered and people don't talk for days because of what they are projecting on the media, and you got these two people that are controlled by the big six saying things that's crazy, and folks is getting bent out of shape and stressed out about that. Bring in that power. Bring it on in. Really. On November the 3rd, a CBS News poll revealed more than 8 out of 6 voters feel repulsed by the presidential campaign, with both candidates being viewed as dishonest by a majority of voters. Forced transparency reveals unsettling truths. Surprisingly, my article 2 weeks ago, how soda companies influence policy through the ties with public health organizations, unquote, seemed to have triggered this underlying stress point. Many of my readers, this is McCullough saying, became very upset about what they described as an attack on Hillary Clinton, which was automatically um, a, a bet, let me see, albeit um, which was automatically abated incorrectly. Okay. According to an endorsement, assuming that Dr. McCullough was endorsing Donald Trump. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I apologize for imprecise communication. The fact of the matter is, I have exposed conclusive conclusions between industry and politicians on both sides of the aisle for many years now. The soda industry has been exposed over the past few years using a model that works for many industries. Finding sloppy science at respected universities, using the media to promote false talking points and filling pockets of politicians to influence policy are manipulative strategies that industry has successfully used to hide the truth from the public while filling their corporate coffins. It doesn't matter if they're Democratic or Republican. My chief aim has always been to reveal the root of the problem, which is that the United States is largely run by corporations to the detriment of us all. Some people call it the United States Corporation. It's run by corporations. Major industries are creating and will continue to create policy regardless of who's in power. Most of the laws passed today are written by industry lawyers, not politicians. But I would like to focus on my optimism towards the future and how we can use our individual power to collectively foster positive change, regardless of the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. See, I like that point is that and no matter who's in office, we know this. Why people getting stressed out? I mean, Barack Obama, a black man, been in office 8 years, but he's still limited to what he can do. He just one man. Unfortunately, positions of power have already attack people who most want that power. And today, we have many morally flawed people working in corporate government. The goal of the multinational corporate agenda is to continue concentrating power at the federal and global levels. Ultimately, the goal is to take power away from the individuals and concentrate it at the highest level possible. This is about control of global population. Why do you think they poisoning the land so much and poisoning the air and poisoning the food? It's to control you, control me, control the population. This is God's planet, not theirs. As noted in a 2014 study by two political scientists, the U.S. is an oligarchy, oligarchy, not a democracy. It's an oligarchy, a small group of people having control of a country. Oligarchy, not a democracy. With the wealthiest elite, the 1%, in American society wielding the most control over the issues Congress and the White House ultimately take action on. More appropriately, perhaps, would be to call it a corporate oligopoly, as the main thrust of power really lies with the big six, i.e., the banking, the pharmaceuticals, the agriculture, military industrial complex, energy, and the media industries. That's who got the power. Career politicians and allowance of massive corporate political contributions ensure this oligopoly will be a dominant force everyone needs to be aware of. Banks, oil, and big pharma form a symbiotic whole. As previously revealed, big banks manipulate and influence your health in a number of different ways. The suppression of natural health treatment can be traced back to the corporate influences of our financial systems. For an example, and the medical profession is cleverly manipulating and influences in such a way as to boost the profits for the pharmaceutical industry. The oil industry actually plays an intricate role in creating the conventional systems of medicine, finance, agriculture, education in the first place. And it was instrumental in creating the blueprint for success and power building through constellations monopolies. The drug industry has since become one of the most powerful political and government influences, with people wandering back and forth through perpetually rotating, revolving doors between drug companies and the federal agencies tasked with regulations such as the Food and Drug Administration. Those people in charge go from the drug company to the and Drug Administration, from the Food and Drug Administration to key positions in drug companies. So they're gonna pass laws that's gonna, feed their pockets. As just one example, the kind of conclusion is precisely what allowed the current um, uh-oh, opioid addiction epidemic to be treated, and it's why no one seems willing to address its roots, which are overprescriptions and misuse of these potential drugs based on fraudulent marketing and what has become typical so-called science-based medicine. It's also why the solution being focused on is simply to make overdose reverse drugs more widely available, as this feeds into the drug companies' pockets rather than emptying them out. They profit from the problems they created, and the federal approval shields them from much of the liability they deserve. Another way Big Pharma gains significant influence over policy relating to health is by lobbying plying congressmen and their staffers with gifts and donations. Political lobbying is one of the primary reasons why drug companies control most of the health industries rather than just being an auxiliary or supportive part of it. The drug companies, the drug companies control, the drug companies control most of the health industry rather than just being auxiliary or supportive of it. They control the politicians. Big, what you call it, agriculture, media, and military industrial complex. Conflicts of interest also permeate our agriculture policies, which in turn influence public health. At present, our agriculture policies feeds right into Big Promise agenda, creating a steady flow of new patients, along with preventable health care crises such as antibiotic-resistant diseases and, epidemic outbreaks. They create the disease and then they got the drug to um, tell people to take. Corruption within the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the USDA, also maintains and promotes the use of toxic chemicals rather than organic farming because it benefits the chemical biotechnology industry currently monopolizing agriculture. The media has also been consolidated to the point that 90% of what you read in the newspapers, magazines, on TV, gossip, in your computers, your cell phones, is now controlled by six media giants. 90% of it. This consolidation allows for tremendous influence on all matters and has led to censorship being more of the rule than the exception. True, unbiased, in depth investigative journalism has joined the hairy nosed while back as an incredible, rare, and near extinct species. And you'll be wise to not swallow whole everything you read in the mainstream media. America's internet giants has also become notorious for being part of the U.S. surveillance apparatus, which whistleblower Edward Snowden revealed being far more extensive and invasive than anyone has ever imagined. If you haven't seen that movie Snowden, I recommend you go check it out or read his books. These guys use these phones to invade our privacy. And we had got smart. We found out that if you take the battery out, then they can't hear what you're saying. So they made phones where you can't take the battery out. So now if you have a conversation, you got to have you some aluminum foil and wrap your phone up in that so it can't get no signal. And then you can talk freely around what you want to say. Otherwise, your phone around, somebody listening in. That's what Ed Snowden was saying. In 2013, Germany's top security officers warned Germans should not use Americans' websites such as Google or Facebook if they want to protect their privacy. Microsoft Windows 10 has also been uh, outed as a major spying tool and private data collection apparatus. Indeed, electronic spying on the dissenters that threaten the establishment agenda has become so prevalent, even the Department of Veterans Affairs has been accused of spying on whistleblowers' email. They watching. Because they watch it because they are scared of what we can do because we are God's children. And the more fear they can project with all the movies and everything, to project fear and people not thinking, they control people more. It's easy to feel hopelessly powerlessly when faced with such issues as these, especially when viewed as a whole. But despite appearances, you do have power, just not in the way you perhaps thought or would like. Getting back to where we started with the presidential election happening today, many are still unfamiliar with how the voting process actually works in the U.S. We got a little video that explains the role of electoral college and electoral process, and it is how it is possible. Now it is possible for clear public favorites to end up losing to the less popular candidate. Uh, Joe Madison said if they got rid of electoral voting, then the politicians would only go to the states with the most people, California, New York, Texas. They wouldn't go to the small states. So they would just be totally overlooked. They wouldn't even care what they thought. But with the electoral college, that means you had to get to 270 votes electorally, so you have to go to each state. Don't panic, refocus. Regardless of who wins the presidency today, please realize your power as an individual lies in your day-to-day decisions, and that no matter who bears the title of President of the United States, the corporate influences will remain. If you don't believe me, revisit, quote, how the First Lady organic garden became a junk food campaign. Michelle Obama, our First Lady, has clearly wanted to promote a healthy solutions, but was no match for the junk food and agriculture industries. The same can be said for President Obama, who campaigned promises to label genetically modified organisms, turn into a complete opposite, where federal laws actually preempt the first state from GMOs labeling laws in the country and barred all other states from pursuing the same matter of labeling the food GMO, genetically modified organisms. I remember him campaigning back, 8 years ago, that he was going to, you know, get GMOs so we can know what food has been poisoned and which one's not, like they do in Europe. And so, they don't have this poison food in Europe like they do here, based on, I haven't been there, but it's based on research. Hey, these folks got power over politicians. Politicians say what is necessary to get elected based on the polling of talking points. A politician public speaking points constantly evolve and are rarely consistent with their actions that benefits the corporate sponsors. Also realize that creating uh, the divisiveness among people is part of a carefully orchestrated plan that works in the oligopoly's favor. Remember, the small group of people controlling a country, or that one percenters. So we really need to get smarter about how we engage in the political process and avoid falling for their carefully constructed and sophisticated strategies that limit us from having any real hopeful choices. As long as we are at each other's throats over things we have little or no control over, it distracts us from analyzing and addressing the underlying system that is creating the problem in the first place. Divide and conquer. So let people have their opinion, whether we're talking about politics, presidential candidates, because these are all false choices anyway. Ultimately, controlling interests are writing the laws and paying the politicians to pass them. But knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is power. So use your knowledge to take control. Avoid victim mentality by realizing where your power lies. The power individual is well and alive, even in this deep, flawed system. It becomes yours by stepping outside of the system with every decision and purchase you make. With every action you take, you also set examples for others to follow, thereby making you a change agent within your own small circle of family and friends and acquaintances. In the end, our collective actions will create the change that are so desperately needed, and thinking locally will eventually have a global effect. Remember, The industries that are currently buying our politicians and writing their own laws cannot maintain power without your ongoing financial support. Remember, black folks got over $1 trillion that we handle every year. While we may not have a significant choice in how our tax contributions are distributed to those industries through subsidies and contracts, we do have a very powerful influence by making responsible purchases each and every day. Withdraw that support, and you automatically redistribute the financial powers to benevolent business aligned with your core principles. A perfect example of this is when you buy locally grown food from an organic farmer. You empower that farmer to continue growing food for the community that supports environmental regulations and human health. And you disempower the big junk food manufacturers that wield undue influence over agricultural policies. This is where your true power lies. Realize left versus right is a false negative. We should not play the game and choose to be part of this false narrative of left versus right or right versus left or Democratic versus Republican, Republican versus Democrat, most even black versus white. Most people are still trapped in the mindset of opposites, and there are great people across the board that seem to come together. Readers of McCullough's.com are split almost evenly between their identities as Republicans and Democrats, and working collectively have produced tremendous results by strategically organizing consumers' marketplace pressure. Sad but true, most federal positions are already occupied because those positions have been bought and paid for by the massive corporate interests that do not represent the people. This is also why we must not support any additional federal or global laws such as trade agreements, no matter how good they sound, because they are always written by hard-nosed corporate interests. It's hard enough to fight for public justice at local and state levels, and even more challenging to fight at federal and global levels. Trade agreements are nothing more than tools to transition economic power to global authorities, such as the World Trade Organization. They in turn make ridiculous laws that ban even the most basic of rights for information, such as country of origin labeling. Cool. We also need to fight to end federal subsidies of junk food ingredients. The concentration and accumulation of power is a clear and present danger to our individual rights. And this accumulation of power is attracting the worst kind of people who seek corporate control and power. Food independence is the key to other forms of independence. It's time to dissent, to step out of the global and federal system. And this all starts with your food. If you cannot grow your own food, then get to know the farmer that can. Keep your money in your community. The closer, the better. Kitchener said it best. Control oil, and you control the nations. Control food, and you control the people. As noted by Investment Watch, U.S. strategies deliberately destroyed family farming in the U.S. and abroad and led to 95% of all gains reserved in the world being under control of 6 multinational agricultural businesses. Yes, Carl, you got a question or comment?
Yes, I appreciate your commentary this morning. My question is this. I remember a few months ago you said that it's more important what you get out of your system than what you put into it. But isn't there still some negatives to that somewhere? Even if
Well,
you can get a lot of junk food out, you shouldn't have put it in the first place, right? So there's some negatives.
well, as we grow, we learn more, and it's important both to get the poisons out of our system, and it's important both to get the nourishments into our system, because getting the
Yeah,
nourishment into our system helps get the poisons out of our system. So we have to do both. It's a balance.
I see.
It's very important.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir. As noted, okay. Anyway, if you don't like the state of his nation or the world, stop eating processed food and the ultra processed junk food. Some may initially think this decision would have nothing to do with everything that is wrong in the world, but if you really give it some thought, you'll realize that the more independence you gain with your food, the more independence you will create in the area as well. Because food is such a potent form of control, breaking that control mechanism will have a rippling effect that extends to outward into many other industries and fields of activity, including the political arena. So instead of getting down about this year election, use it as a motivation to step into your personal power and join the revolution to create food independence. Yes, Carl, you got a question or comment? Hello?
Yes, I was. You mentioned there were six industries that control the government.
Yes.
Okay, what were the six industries?
Okay. And go back to this article where I got this from is, McCullough, and don't panic about politics, but those six industries: the banking industry, the drug companies, pharmaceuticals, the agriculture, the military industrial complex, the energy, like, DTE and things like that, and the media. Those are the big
Okay,
six. Those what controls no matter what president come in.
and
And
those industries,
congressmen and federal agency, all of them down the line.
they're the industry that's you said it was the 1%, right? Control that.
Yeah, that was just another name because we call it the Big Six. We call it the one percenters of the
Okay.
world.
Okay,
Some people
that
call
was
it
what I wanted to know.
Illuminati.
I thought I heard you say it was six.
Pardon me?
I thought I heard you say that there was a big six that controlled the government. Really, that's
Yes.
really in control,
Well, they
no
got
matter
a
what the people
yeah,
do or does.
they got a lot of names.
Hmm.
We hear this article that McCullough's putting out. They call them the Big Six. We'll call them the Illuminati. We'll call them the one percenters.
Oh, okay. I'm
So
familiar with those other names. Okay.
yeah, those we know who they are, and their agenda is to divide and conquer. And what McCullough's saying here, and what I endorse is our food. Because even Kissinger said, if you control the food, you control the people. So if we eating good, taking good supplements, we not taking their drugs. We're not taking their fast food, which is loaded full of drugs. And we, drinking good water.
Hmm.
We're taking our control back,
Right,
and it has a
right.
rippling effect. They spend a whole lot of money to be able to not for us not to be labeled in the food genetically organized, genetically organized organisms,
Yeah.
GMOs.
The GMOs, yeah,
Right. They
right.
spend a lot of money so that we would not have that knowledge. Now, if people would just go to local farmers and get the organic foods,
Uh-huh.
you counteract all that because
And they
they,
won't be as
the
sick,
people
and they
not
won't
that
be
stuff. They
running into
start backing
problems.
up on them. Pardon me.
They won't be as sick as a lot of people are sick and run
Exactly.
into problems because they're taking these adulterated foods and
There you
products.
go. That's our power, and
Okay, thank you
getting
very
it
much.
back.
I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, Carl, you got a question or comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say something about the anxiety that you were talking about earlier.
Yes.
This the human family has not experienced um, an anxiety that was greater than what we experienced in World War I and World War II collectively. And we might unconsciously that anxiety of the world wars might we might be really anticipating that again with this election of a Trump
Well,
because
it sounds like you got a good point, but I'm out of time.
okay.
Okay. But you can call me at 366 Diet. We can discuss it further if you like.
All right.
All right, bro.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, I don't care what's going on, hugs promote healing, and that's straight from God. Peace and love, y'all.